All right. What is going on, guys? Welcome to an episode of Only Football with Kyle. I'm Kyle, and we got a lot to talk about because me and Rick, we decided to move our football episode to Monday so that we didn't miss anything. And it felt like a genius move yesterday when Monday came and all these stories broke, and we were like, good thing we're doing our news today. We can talk about all these. But then we woke up today, and I'd say around noon, we realized that the same thing happened today. Some stories broke, and let's just face it, news is a good thing around this time of the year. We don't have football, but we still have gossip, stories, rumors. By the way, Rich Eisen did an amazing segment. Obviously, he was at the NFL Combine last year, which I hear is like the NFL spring break. And he made a list of his favorite rumors that he heard from GMs over a glass of Cabernet at dinner. And some of them were really funny. And I figured, let's talk about some of this stuff. But before we get into that type of stuff, Unseen Pets is in the chat. He said, "Remember me, of course. I never forget." Person that comes onto this channel. Glad to have you in here, Unseen Pets, and I hope you're doing all right. So, let's start with probably the elephant in the room, and that is Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones just let's step it back a bit. Daniel Jones fires his agent. He lets the Giants know that $40 million a year is his price tag, which would make him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. And me and Rick got on here and we thought he's crazy. Like, there's no way that Daniel Jones is worth $40 million a year. And then even Giants fans came in and said, well, I think actually, Steve said Daniel Jones is going to be tagged. Now, that's pretty much what we thought, me and Rick thought was going to happen, was that Jones would get tagged because $40 million a year is a lot of money, right? It's like there's no way he's going to get $40 million a year. Well, it says that the pact includes $35 million in additional incentives, but let's just look at this for what it is at face value. 4 years, $160 million. Now, I have yet to get any sort of college education down, especially in mathematics, but 4 divided by 16, 4, add the 0. He's making $40 million a year. How did the Giants meet him at that number? Because he could have been tagged for less. This is the thing, man. He could have been tagged for less money. And not only could he have been tagged for less money, if you watch the short that I uploaded, I was very specific about when he played that game against the Vikings in the wild card round. I did say the Giants have their answer at quarterback. But let me clarify. I meant they don't have a question at quarterback, right? Just because there's no question about who the starter is going into next year doesn't mean that you know who your quarterback is for the unforeseen future. Like, 4 years, $160 million. I just don't know why you don't tag. Let me tell you 2 reasons you should tag. Number one, it would have been cheaper. So you wouldn't have had to pay $40 million a year. Number two, Daniel Jones would have played under a tag, and it would have probably helped out with the negotiations going on with Saquon Barkley, their running back, one of the best in the league. But number three, and this is the part that I really want to drive home here, because to me, this is the most important part. Number three, when Russell Wilson came to Denver from Seattle, it's like, dude, why does everything have to be about Russell Wilson with this guy? I'm sorry, but it's the recent memory that I have, and I'm a Broncos fan, so you're just going to have to bear with it. When he came to Denver, the Broncos, before that week 1 game, they signed him to the $240 million contract. You know, the one that everybody is making fun of because it's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league statistically and the second highest paid quarterback of the league. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Bill. He said it's a 2-year type of deal, and we get a lower cap hit under this deal than the tag this year. Okay, so that makes a little more sense. But what I wanted to say was this. Okay, I still think with 2 years, like, let's say that Daniel Jones goes out this year and he just totally sucks, but he's tagged. Okay, then you're not married to him. But if he goes out and let's say the defense is really good for the Giants, they're running the football, let's say they're doing good, but let's say they're like the Seahawks, right? Because we had this conversation yesterday about Geno Smith, and the only way to put it when you're trying to figure out is Geno Smith elite or is he better than a backup? All you have to ask yourself is, can we win a Super Bowl? And I know how you feel about that, Bill, because you said, and I kind of was with you with the Eli Manning stuff. I said he kind of reminds me of Eli Manning, but from a business standpoint, I want to look at this through another lens. Okay. Let's do the old classic pros and cons that everybody tells you to do when you're making a big decision. The con, you're going to be married to him for 2 years. So if he it has some sort of year that is, I don't want to say similar to last, but let's say you have identified his ceiling and the answer to the Super Bowl question is no, then you can start moving forward. Okay. So the con is that you can't move forward if he has a year that would make you want to move forward because it's a 2-year deal. Okay. So that's a huge con. And bringing that Russell Wilson thing back, they gave him he was under contract for that whole first year, the one that just passed from Seattle. So Denver went out of their way to say, no, we're going to make this guy really happy. We're going to give you a huge contract, 240 million before week 1 kicks off against Seattle because you're our guy and we want to lock you in for the next 5 years, which at the time I can't, hindsight's 2020. At the time I thought to myself, well, good. Russell Wilson, Hall of Famer. At this point, we're just like every day turning on the news as a Bronco fan, and you're just like, it just keeps getting better. Unbelievable. But looking at it now, I've learned something. And there was no rush to pay Russell Wilson. And if he would have had the year that he had last year, this would be his contract year. Denver would not have offered him $160 million. And most of the videos that you see on YouTube regarding Denver Bronco fans and stuff like that are breaking down the salary cap year to year to explain when we can get rid of Russell Wilson or move off of him without totally destroying the franchise. Now, I understand Daniel Jones's contract isn't like that, but the moral of the story was don't pay somebody more than you need to. Don't commit more than you need to. Patrick Mahomes, 10 years, 500 million. I totally get it. There was nothing left to be desired, nothing left of Patrick Mahomes' game to be discovered. We understand those types of deals, right? The Aaron Rodgers deals. But Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson at the time made sense, but I learned a valuable lesson. And when I see the Giants make this move, that's when I start wondering, okay, I understand Daniel Jones wanted 40 million a year, but would he have played under the tag? Because the only way to me it makes sense to give him a 2-year deal is if the answer to that question is no. He said, I will not play under a franchise tag. I'm going to sit out. Then I understand it. Or they wanted to, maybe they wanted to reward him, but I just man, I have like PTSD from this stuff, Bill. I really do because this just happened to me and I would hate more than anything. I would hate, especially for you because you're like one of our favorite people on this channel. I would hate for Daniel Jones to go out there and just be what he's been for the last 2 years. Let's say he doesn't play like he did in the Vikings game, okay? Let's just say he plays like he did most of the season. That's the other thing, okay? And we'll get to that. You're stuck with him for another year. So I would just hate for you to be in the situation that I'm in because it's a bad place. It's a bad place to be. And it's one of those you shit in one hand and you wish in the other, and you just hope it gets better next year. But if you had your pick, I mean, Baker Mayfield beat Russell Wilson 51 to like 10, on Christmas. So I'm happy for Daniel Jones. I think he should have been rewarded. I thought the franchise tag was a huge reward for him. Uh, he was gonna what was he gonna make, like, $33 million? I mean, it's not like the guy's not getting his trophy at the end of that playoff game, but I wonder if the Giants overreached, and that's the only thing I have my reservation about, and I hope I'm wrong for Bill, for Giants fans, and for everybody else involved, around that franchise or that organization. So, let's move on here. Bill said, from a business standpoint, I like it. 40 million in 2 to 4 years is going to be cheap for our cap, and our cap will grow so we can take that hit in year 2. Well, I mean, to be fair, you can always say any deal is going to be cheap in the future. Um, but it's like, let's say the housing market is right now it's high, but let's say the economy, um, the housing market just like came back down to where I think it should be. By the way, because I'm trying to find a home and it's so hard. But let's say that the housing market right was super low. Just because I find a house that I know will be worth more money down the line doesn't mean there's not a better house than that house, right? And that's the conversation to be had is even though the contract will be and let's not act like the Giants secured this dude for the next like 7 years where it's like by the time 2030 comes around, um, this is going to be a laughing contract. Like it's only 2 years, and the cap thing I get. Like if you have the cap space where you're already in your head, like okay, we have a backup plan because we have the cap space to cut them. We can take the dead hit. But that just see, I always circle back though to like why even have to have a plan B? Just franchise tag him, and if he kicks ass this year, give him a real contract, 7 years, right? Nobody wants to be on the quarterback carousel, and any team that's been on it for a long time, and I would say the Giants were never on it because I thought Eli Manning was a good quarterback. I think he's better than most people give him credit for. But for the franchises that have had a lot of problems getting quarterbacks, like the Bears and the Broncos and the Browns for a very long time before Baker Mayfield, and even that is now questionable. But we actually do have some Baker news coming in a little bit. Um, you got to secure your dude once you know he's a dude. So the 2-year contract tells me that the Giants also are left with something to be desired. That's why they didn't give him 7-year contract. So if there and I'll ask you that. So if there's something that's holding them back from a real 7-year contract, even 6 years, then why even give them the 4-year contract? To me, it just seems like it's conflicting. It's like not ironic, but it to me it's I don't know. It's like if it's not good enough for 7 years, then tag him. Like that's I don't know if you see what I'm saying at all, but this is football. Like we're gonna have different opinions, and that's totally cool too. So Bill said, speaking of Aaron Rodgers deal, the Jets flew their management and owner out to California to talk to Rodgers. Definitely gonna touch on that in a little bit. And we've talked about it. The stability and keeping the OC and stuff will help him. Needed the tag for Saquon. That's also part of why the deal happened. I hear you on the futures thing. Anyway, got to bounce. I'll watch this back later. My daughter's 18th birthday, and I got to take the family out for dinner. Cheers. Cheers, Bill. Big time fan of the show. And I hope that your daughter has an amazing 18th birthday party. Happy birthday from everybody here at Star 6 Media. Have a great time, Bill, and take care. And he said, it's a hedge anyway. Okay, I'm gone for realsies now. I'll catch you later. All right, Bill. So yeah, that's my pretty much my opinion on the Daniel Jones thing. And that's why I like having you guys in the comments too, because there is another side to it. Like Bill said, they wanted to use the tag on Saquon Barkley. Okay. See that to me that makes sense. And maybe a 4-year contract was like the lowest contract that he would accept. But Me and Rick had this conversation. Is Daniel Jones elite? Now, it would have been very easy to just circle back to that one question, and things would have been probably a lot faster. So I bet you if you asked Rick that, he would say no. We pretty much know who the elite quarterbacks are. I don't need to name them. It's that obvious. So how much do you pay for a quarterback that's not elite? Okay. So that's your question. That is the question. So the fact is, Daniel Jones got paid like an elite quarterback. Okay. So follow this. And it seems like I'm just harping on this Daniel Jones thing for a long time, but it is actually a lot to break down because this actually shifted the market. And I'm going to get to that right now. It didn't shift the market like Deshaun Watson's fully guaranteed 260, but, or was it 260? I think so. Yeah. But it did totally change the market because now the Daniel Jones of the NFL are worth 40 million. And you can't tell them they're wrong once Daniel Jones signs that contract, just like Lamar Jackson is technically worth 260 million guaranteed in his head because there's a guy in Cleveland with a terrible background that it was accused of some terrible things, probably did it. I normally don't like to speculate, but it looks terrible. And then he signs the biggest contract in the NFL pretty much in history. Not in numbers, but in fully guaranteed. $260 million guaranteed. So look at how that changed Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray and then Russell Wilson, right? This is how the NFL market works. So the fact is quarterbacks like Daniel Jones were making $25 million a year. Okay. And we brought up that picture. So I'm going to see if I can pull it up right now really quick for you guys just to put this into perspective. And I really hope they didn't update it yet. Once again, I'm using overthecap.com, which is one of my fun favorite one of my favorite websites to use. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers making 50 mil a year. Number 1. Russell Wilson, number 2, 49 million a year. Kyler Murray makes 46 million a year. Deshaun Watson, we talked about that, 46 million a year. So look at it. We just compared Deshaun Watson to Kyler Murray. Deshaun Watson makes 46 million a year. Kyler Murray makes $46.1 million a year. So tell me that they don't literally just play off of the last contract that was done. That's how the market shifts. Okay, we all know that. Patrick Mahomes makes $45 million a year because he signed his contract like 4 years ago at this point. Josh Allen's making $43 million a year. Matthew Stafford making $40 million a year. Matthew Stafford almost feels overpaid, but hold on. How can you say that? He just won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Okay, so just to be clear, I'm not picking on Daniel Jones because I have my speculation about speculation. I can't think of that word right now. Sorry, it's been a long day, but I honestly have my doubts about a quarterback like Matthew Stafford making $40 million a year. Dak Prescott makes $40 million a year. I'll tell you, I've always pretty much had a problem with that. Derek Carr makes 37, Kirk Cousins, and then look at this, Jared Goff, who in any statistical category, I'm pretty sure, maybe not rushing yards, okay? But Jared Goff was showing off his elite speed at the combine. Check that video out. I will say Jared Goff was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for the Lions. He was scoring like 40 points a game all the time. He was airing it out, but he's Jared Goff. He's a quiet guy that seems kind of shy. He's not very outspoken. He's not loud on the field. He doesn't gritty. There's nothing about Jared Goff that really is a media grab. And if you don't have anything that grabs from the media, it's easy for a really great year to be, I don't want to say forgotten about, but he didn't go to the Pro Bowl, I don't believe. And on top of that, Geno Smith did go to the Pro Bowl. But Geno Smith more vocal. They wrote me off. I didn't write back. Oh, we can play off that. We can make segments off that. The Russell Wilson connection. Geno Smith, I would say, honestly, I would say Jared Goff had just as good of a year than Geno Smith. And I really feel that way. And Jared Goff's making 33 million a year. Okay. Lamar Jackson made 32 million a year. Okay. So what are the tier two quarterbacks right now? Because we say tier one, tier two, it depends. If we break the quarterbacks into 7 tiers, then it gets a lot more specific. And I'll tell you this, if we had to break the quarterbacks into 7 tiers, Daniel Jones is not a tier two quarterback. If we broke it into 3 tiers, he is, right? Because it's less specific. The fewer options you have at tier. So all I'm going to say is the fact that Daniel Jones is being paid money like Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford and even Derek Carr, that'll update, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I think it did update right here, $150 million. Uh, I don't understand why. I really don't. I just think it's a lot of money. Let's see what Daniel Jones is making last year, $6 million. Okay. So just to be clear about those tiers, if we broke it into 7, look at this. 8. Okay, so there's a huge drop. Tom Brady made $25 million a year last year. You're telling me Daniel Jones is about to double that, almost minus 10? That's crazy. But look at this. The drop off from 25 to 15 million. It's the biggest drop off on the quarterback market. And if you're not a fringe tier 1 quarterback, then you drop into this minus 10 category. The other ones go like this: 25, 29, 30, 32, 33, 35. And then it goes 25, boom, 15. Why 15? Baker Mayfield. Oh, we've hit some guys like Jameis Winston, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Mitch Trubisky, Jimmy Garoppolo, Teddy Bridgewater, Daniel Jones. Not updated. Okay. So he went from making $6 million a year to $40 million, which tells me that if Baker Mayfield, and he was the highest paid of all those guys I just named, making $15 million a year. If Baker Mayfield gets, okay, you guys aren't going to believe this, but right now there's like a bidding war for Baker Mayfield. Apparently, there's teams. Barstool posted on their Twitter, you know, basically almost making fun of the idea, like things that you thought you would never hear this year. People are fighting over Baker Mayfield. If Baker Mayfield gets a second, shot, I don't know when his contract's up, but now he's worth $40 million a year because of Daniel Jones. Tell me he's not. Honestly, I mean, if you had to go roll with one guy for an entire year, I just think Baker's had a lot of unfortunate places. The toxic environment in Cleveland, then to the Panthers where their head coach got fired by week 6, fastest firing of the year, then shipped off to LA, and he still had that comeback win on Thursday night. He didn't even have his cleats in the mail. He didn't even have his gear measured up. He just showed up, showed out. And I still think if I had to roll with one guy for an entire season, it would not be um it would not be Daniel Jones. Gee, I just said so many quarterbacks. It would definitely be Baker Mayfield. So the point is he has changed the market because all of these fringe quarterbacks are worth $40 million. And now the question will arise if Daniel Jones is worth the same amount of money that Matthew Stafford and Josh Allen are pretty much making, only $5 million less than Patrick Mahomes. Well, what's Joe Burrow worth now? 80? you, like it almost just blows this whole thing wide open. But whoever he hired as his agent, shout out to that guy because that guy did a really good job. I thought, man, I think even like a contract making 30 million a year would have been totally reasonable, and I think that would have been just fine if he would have made 30 million for 2 years and Ben like signs a 2-year, $60 million contract, I could get behind that. I really could. Um, if you had to give him a deal. So, anywho, let's move on. So, one of the, I would say, I don't, for me, being born in Wisconsin, this was the biggest news of the day for me personally. Aaron Rodgers is not going to New York, but New York is coming to him. And if you ever want to know in life when you've made it, if you ever have any doubt in your mind if you're that dude or not, when it's time to change teams, they fly out to come see you in California on the total opposite coast, right? New York to California. That's where they flew out to meet with Aaron Rodgers. I thought this whole time that Aaron Rodgers was going to be going to New York. Why? Because I thought it made sense. And when I first heard the story, I didn't hear it like that, how I just told you. I heard it like this. Aaron Rodgers seeks permission from the Packers to visit with the Jets, and the Packers have accepted it. That's all I knew. So I'm driving to work, and in my head, I'm picturing Aaron Rodgers, taking a tour of the stadium, checking out the field, looking at the equipment, seeing the training room, seeing the amenities, seeing the resources that they have, like really learning what the Jets culture is. And you kind of have to have boots on the ground to really get that that real understanding. People can only explain something in words so much. People like to see things for their own eyes. Like I highly doubt anyone would ever move into a house that you've never seen in real life. So I thought Rogers was going to New York, but no, New York's coming to him, which tells me that maybe this hasn't progressed. There's two ways to look at it. One, this is progressing really fast, and this morning when I heard it the way I told you, I thought he was in New York. I thought this was going to be a done deal very soon, and I thought, man, I don't think Rodgers would take this much time if he was making the same decision he made last year. So the fact is, he's making a new decision, and it's going to be to go to the Jets. If it was retirement, I think he would have made that already too. I just, why would you want to interview with other team? I say team. I want to say teams, but it's just the Jets. If it just seems very specific. Like if you were going to retire, why would you even waste your time on Aaron Rodgers? Actually, this is another thing that I just came to my mind. He's one of those people that he's a wait, he thinks about his decisions and he takes them very serious and he thinks about how it's going to affect the 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 building, almost like a butterfly effect, like a holistic point of view, and everything is very, energy and hippie and I hate to say those words because I feel like I'm just belittling um people that have the awareness to take seriously what's going on around them, to detach from social media, to detach from, all the directions that life pulls us in. I think what he does is great. And I for one am a big fan. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers would have the owner of the Jets fly his private jet across the entire country if he wasn't interested. I don't. And because of that, it has to be taken pretty seriously. And on top of that, last year, the same process, he never requested to visit with a team. And I know because I followed that every day for like 5 months. And the first episode me and Rick ever did was about Aaron Rodgers and where he was going to go, hoping it was with Nathaniel Hackett in Denver. So when I heard that he's meeting with the team, I thought to myself, man, why Aaron Rodgers in New York? That seems like something that is happening. And Aaron Rodgers is not at that step where he was willing to go to New York. So wait a minute though. This is the part that I wanted to get to. that tells me that Aaron Rodgers isn't at that stage in the New York Jets. Uh, what do you call frenzy, whatever. That he's not at that point with the Jets where he's like, yeah, let me come look at it, let me touch it, give me a tour, let me walk around. He's at the stage of, hey, Rodgers, if we come talk to you, will you give us a, a serious consideration, or would it be a waste of time? And I believe he said, I would seriously consider going to New York and being a Jet. And they flew over. Now, what happens in that meeting itself depends on what steps are taken next, right? It's possible that Rodgers is Jet or retire. And some of the rumors that were going around at the combine was that the Packers are hoping Rodgers leaves, but no one has the backbone to tell him to do it. I don't believe the rumors, and especially the ones about Aaron Rodgers, because for one, when you are a very to yourself, quiet person, which you might think he's not, but that's because the media doesn't. He purposely lets people know. He puts it on the Pat McAfee show that he's doing the darkness retreats and stuff like that. That is intentional because he wants other people to, one, feel empowered if they want to do things like that and know that there are other people that do things like that. Professional athletes do that all the time when they, profess Jesus on the field or whatever. He wants them to know that, hey, if you're a darkness retreat person or you haven't thought about it, I'm going to plant some seeds out there and use my platform to potentially help people get to a higher form of being, a higher form of themselves. So he has been outspoken on that stuff. But before Pat McAfee, if you actually find out why he started talking to Pat McAfee, it was because he felt like nobody knew who he was and it was bothering him. So he wanted people to start get to know him, who he is as a person, not just a football player. And so many people just see a football player, and it's not just Aaron Rodgers. Every football player is a person first, not just a football machine. Do your football thing, put your helmet on, go. And it just drives me crazy to see, he goes into the darkness retreat. So when you're a secret person or you're a to yourself person, right? And that's why the diva thing never made sense to me, because it's like you see wide receivers and you see real divas and you see how they are with the media and going to public events and their social media. Like Rodgers doesn't do any of that stuff. So, I mean, it's like you're burning the word if you're going to misuse it. If it means Odell Beckham, then how can that same word mean Aaron Rodgers? It just doesn't make any sense. You could say maybe some other words if you wanted to come up with a mean one for some reason because you just want to, but definitely not diva. That's just a stupid thing that the media keeps reiterating. But um, if you don't have any stories to break, the media will make a story because they need to, right? You don't do anything publicly that we could talk about. So let's just create some shit up real quick. Just like when he went into the darkness retreat, it was like Aaron Rodgers left after the first day. And then the next day, it was like Aaron Rodgers is leaving early, staying only 2 nights on his 4 day. Nobody knows where this stuff came from. Like, nobody. And the media, unfortunately, there's no accountability. So they're allowed to just say whatever they want. Nobody ever questions it. They just keep on rolling with it. And I think it's a damn shame. I think if you are going to go get your degree in any type of sports journalism, that you should have to, no different than a doctor or a lawyer, you should have to take an oath because the media is more powerful and dangerous than the best doctor or the best lawyer. The media is what drives, I would say 95% of your ideas about what's happening around you. And depending on what media channels you're using, will drive the narrative in one or two or three different directions. Okay. So I think the whole thing with Aaron Rodgers is he's going to probably be a Jet, in my opinion. And I'll tell you that pretty confidently because as much as I said last time I didn't know what he was going to do, I feel like we've gotten to a point now where we can ask ourselves, okay, what's taking so much time? If he was going to retire, would he know by now? Okay, probably. But then on top of that, if he was going to retire, would he meet with the Jets? That's like another probably not. So I feel like those two things together, to me, just like takes retirement kind of off the table. Or it just maybe he's really just exploring every avenue before he retires, right? But I'm leaning towards that he's going to be leaving Green Bay and joining the Jets. But I'll say I think a lot of it depends on how this meeting goes with the Jets. Because if it doesn't go well, then I don't think he does it. But it's like if it doesn't go well, he won't go. If it does go well, he'll go. Thank you guys for watching Only Football with Kyle. I need Rick back. No. Um Here's the thing to consider though. Being in Green Bay, you don't have a lot of juice. You don't have an owner. Steve in the chat, Konnichiwa, good to see you, friend. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. If you um what was I saying? Okay, if you know Green Bay, they don't have a lot of money. They can't sign big free agents. The GM and the head coach are kind of just like, this is another thing that's scrutinized is like they're just Aaron Rodgers is yes man, and Rodgers is like the most important person in the building. As much as the media, like I said, keeps making it seem like Rodgers needs that, I think Rodgers would love an opportunity to go somewhere like a big city and just ripped up that narrative. Like, I don't think Rodgers has a problem going to a new place, meeting new people, having a new boss. I personally don't feel that way at all. And I feel like anybody that watches his interviews would understand that he from going like it not just any person, a person that is scared to break up their routine, a person that values certainty over uncertainty doesn't go on darkness retreats. They are homebound on the opposite extreme, okay? So, that whole thing is another stupid ass thing that the media is saying. So, if Rodgers does go to the Jets, does that make the New York Jets a contender? I'm gonna say, yes, of course it does. Because last year, the Jets were winning in spite of Zach Wilson. That defense is solid. And Sauce Gardner, he's a little physical. I'm never gonna get over that BS game against Broncos. So many uncalled pass interferences, but he's a very physical guy and he's very good and he's probably one of the best cornerbacks in the league, probably top 4. So, do I think and they have a really good front because the Jets were getting all that pressure without having to blitz their linebackers because how good their front 4 was. And there's some young guys on the outside, Garrett, Wilson, um, if they could bring in Rodgers and maybe get like a stud running back, I think they still have James Robinson from the trade with the Jaguars last year. This was not in my notes, but I don't think it really matters because the Packers didn't have the defense the Jets have, and Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator, and I really think that um, that'll work. As much as Nathaniel Hackett kind of tore it, blew that whole thing up in a bad way. I do think with Aaron Rodgers, there's not like a learning curve at all, and they're just going to kind of fit like a glove. So to me, it makes sense that he would go to New York. I also think if Aaron Rodgers could, a lot of people are like Aaron Rodgers is following Brett Favre, and Steve just said he's going to follow Favre and sign with the Jets and then Vikings before finally retiring. I actually saw somebody make that comment earlier too. I don't know if I don't think he would ever become a Viking personally. Um because he really man, it's kind of weird because it's he always said that he wanted to retire a Packer, but it's like once he's a Jet, then that kind of throws that away, right? Like that's off the table. But then like how deep does he go? Like does he go to the Vikings? Like is everything on the table? I don't think so. So I just think the Jets thing is a coincidence. I don't think it's I mean, the Jets are one of the only teams that really needs a quarterback. When you think about it, like, not that every team has their quarterback figured out, but teams like the Colts and the Texans, they plan to draft. The Seattle Seahawks just got their guy. Brock Purdy or Trey Lance is going to be there. Matthew Stafford's going to be there. And Kyler Murray's not going anywhere. The AFC West is there's no room besides the Raiders. And Josh McDaniels already went public saying he wants the next quarterback to be there for a long time. He said that at the Combine press conference, which means not Aaron Rodgers, because Rodgers has what, maybe 1 year left if he plays this year, maybe two. Only he will know, and he will be a one season at a time decision from now on. So that doesn't fit the description. Um, Atlanta needs a quarterback, but we haven't heard them making any moves for anybody. So I got to believe that they're planning on drafting too. So probably between Atlanta and the Texans, you're going to have two quarterbacks off the board. CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, whatever. But the Jets always was linked to Aaron Rodgers. And if Rodgers could be the guy that would take the New York Jets back to the Super Bowl, then I really do think that would be kind of like a legacy sealer, because there's a lot of reasons that the Packers haven't had more Super Bowls. And you could say Aaron Rodgers didn't play his best football in January. And I would be the first person to agree watching those games. Some of them live in person, like Brett Favre's last game as a Packer in 2007 against the New York Giants at Lambeau. There's just something about it. I think it might be the weather, to be honest. I think it's just too damn cold. I know he says he likes the cold, but he definitely it's like Peyton Manning always played bad in the cold too, but he never claimed to like it. So it's just kind of weird. But if he could, if he would definitely quiet all those conversations. Like Rodgers has won Super Bowl in 2010. Okay, I mean he has 4 MVPs, so if he could just get one more Super Bowl, I think that would seal it, and it would also, in a way, show like what could have Rodgers done if he wasn't in Green Bay, because a lot of people love to question Rodgers and Brett Favre. If you don't like them, you'll question it. You'll say, well, they only have 2 Super Bowl rings. But who knows if Brett Favre was, in Patrick Mahomes' spot right now, or Kyle Shanahan, his spot over there with that solid defense and all those weapons. Like Rodgers has never had a team like Kyle Shanahan had this year. Maybe the 2010 team. I think they still had Donald Driver and Greg Jennings. I think they still had the safety who ended up going to the Raiders. I'm drawing a blank right now. They had some ball players when they won the Super Bowl. Go figure. But yeah, I do think that if he went to New York, won a Super Bowl, retired, the narrative would be, what if Rodgers wasn't stuck in Green Bay for the entire career that he had. And I do think Aaron Rodgers is at least interested in testing those waters and seeing. Now, it is risky. If he cares about his legacy, it's a risky move. But I don't know why a person as talented at throwing the football as Rodgers, who's still blocking people downfield last year at his age, should have any reason to be worried, because it seems like on paper he's going into a better scenario. Yes, you're going to have to play the Bills and the Patriots, but honestly, I think the Bills and the Patriots, the Bills have been exploited. Like Miami did it, then Cincinnati just watched the tape and then they just destroyed them. Now they got their defensive coordinator taking the year off. I think the Jets would be immediately the favorite to win the AFC East if Aaron Rodgers goes there. Charles Woodson. Thank you, Steve. Names. So many. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. And honestly, as much as I want him to see him retire in Green Bay only because I felt like that was so important to him for so many years. Um, I would enjoy to s- to see something I never thought I would get to see, and that's Aaron Rodgers playing for a different team. And Brett Favre got them to the AFC Championship game. So if Aaron Rodgers can get him farther than that, you could make an argument that that is a legacy sealer that Aaron Rodgers is better than Brett Favre. And what if that's all this is? What if that's all this is about? Is trying to go down. If you're going to go down with one Super Bowl each, what do you have to separate you? So what if all it is Aaron Rodgers wanting to be the best quarterback that played in Green Bay for the last 35, 40 years or however long it's been. I'm only 28, so I'm not sure, but that is that. Um, I mentioned earlier about Lamar Jackson. He has been placed on the non-exclusive franchise tag, and the Ravens are hoping to keep him for at least another year. And the Ravens took the first step by offering the non-exclusive franchise tag. Well, he was placed on it. It's not an offer, but we'll see how Jackson responds to it. So the tag will cost the Ravens 32.416 million, and they'll have until July 17th to reach a multi-year extension with the 2019 AP NFL Most Valuable Player before that number becomes permanent. So that's the date you want to mark, July 17th. So the Ravens general manager said, "We have not reached a long-term deal with Lamar Jackson." He said there has been many instances across the league and in Baltimore when a player has been designated with the franchise tag and signed a long-term deal that same year. We'll continue to negotiate in good faith with Lamar, and we are hopeful we can strike a long-term deal that's fair to Lamar and the Ravens. Our ultimate goal is to build a championship team with Lamar leading the way for many years. Saying all the right things, that's for sure. But something tells me that they're just very far apart right now. um, Steve, I didn't mean to skip this. So he said, with the controversy with Favre recently, I think he at this point considered the favorite over Favre by Green Bay fans. That is, oh yeah, yeah. As far as like publicity, I mean, Aaron Rodgers all the way. But that's a good question because I feel like people would definitely say like Brett Favre is a total piece of shit, but then be like, yeah, but he was better than Aaron Rodgers, So, um, it's interesting because it might make people lean one way or another, but some people kind of separate that stuff. Like if we're gonna have a conversation about Deshaun Watson and his ability to play quarterback, you know, as much as I don't even think he should be in the NFL, I would separate that because I don't think that necessarily has to do with football. But I think there's a lot of people that don't have the ability to compartmentalize. I've been saying words for so long today. Compartmentalize. Thank you. Um, and they probably just have an emotional knee jerk reaction on things. But yeah, Favre is a total POS. So Jackson is still free to negotiate with other teams. Now, you saw the key word here, non-exclusive franchise tag. So to me, this is a brilliant move by the Ravens because non-exclusive means that other teams will be able to reach out to Lamar Jackson. And I don't think the Ravens would do this if they weren't already offering him an absurd amount of money that they believe, like the Bible. And mind you, these GMs just all got together. Okay. They talk to each other. Unless someone's doing some stabbing in the back, I'm pretty sure it's non-exclusive. because A, it's cheaper, and B, it'll be a great way to teach Lamar Jackson a lesson when no team offers him a better contract than the Ravens have currently. Um, I don't know what the contract is that he has currently, but I have to believe the non-exclusive is exactly what it is. He's like, "Look, I'm trying to show you that it's not just us. It's not the Ravens. Like, you know, there's 31 other teams that don't want to give you what you want, whatever that number is, which is clearly at this point, I would have to say it's more than like 50 million a year, probably." Peter Schrager on Good Morning Football said on Tuesday that Atlanta does not plan to pursue the quarterback. Okay, so Atlanta, that's why I mentioned them earlier, going for Anthony Richardson, who probably will be right there for them. Atlanta is going to get Anthony Richardson. That's what I think. I think it works out. Gainesville, Florida to Georgia, stay in, the area. Um, I think it works out great for them. So that's my pick for Atlanta. I think that they get Anthony Richardson. But who would make a huge jump at Lamar Jackson? And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like there's not that many teams that need a quarterback. So who would do it? Who would be the team to offer him, you know, whatever it is, $300 million? Like I literally don't know. Steve said, I think if the Ravens can get 2 first-round picks for him, I'd take it. Fans keep saying his passing is hindered by bad wide receivers and O-line, then gives them the picks and ability to address all these bad players. Wow. But then you don't have a quarterback. So it's like you lose either way. I do think I don't think there's any question that the Ravens are a better football team with Lamar Jackson. I don't even think that's up for debate. I really don't. But we were talking about the market earlier. Is he worth more money than 31 other quarterbacks? Is he worth setting the market for? How many playoff games has he won? Okay, one. Okay, Tim Tebow has one playoff win. Tim Tebow had one playoff win, the same amount as Lamar Jackson. To me, it's to me that does matter because usually, I mean, look, Joe Burrow got his team to the Super Bowl and didn't get paid. I know he was on his rookie deal, but then he went to the AFC Championship game the next year. Like that's a guy that you're like, when you know, you know. Like that is a guy that I would break the market for. Joe Burrow, 100%. I would make him the highest paid player. I'd give him $55 million a year and a $290 million contract, fully guaranteed. Because Joe Burrow is that damn good. And I don't ever have to worry about if I have one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, you hit the lottery. But what if Lamar Jackson doesn't ever win playoff games? Okay, you broke the market for him. So now you can't get those receivers that Steve mentioned. So now you can't get the receivers. So you kind of screw yourself long term. And whatever Lamar's looking for, I think there's a reason that it's private. He did come out and say that it was a rumor that it had to be fully guaranteed. He may be saying something like it doesn't have to be fully guaranteed, but it has to be, 300 million, which is almost just as crazy. I think Lamar Jackson should be getting paid around the same amount of money as, I'll say, Matthew Stafford and Matthew Stafford and now Daniel Jones. I think $40 million a year on a 4-year contract for $160 million. I would say that is reasonable. And after the 4 years, especially with Lamar, that he likes to use his legs a lot, you reevaluate, because he might get hurt. That's the other thing. He's injured all the time. So if let's say he misses 15 games in 4 years, That would probably be a good time to pivot. So, Steve in the comments saying, "Oh, I read that one already." So yeah, that's how I feel about the Lamar Jackson scenario, and we'll keep you up to date on that when we get updates. The Giants applied the franchise tag to Saquon Barkley, so Barkley is going to be staying in New York. So the Giants are having a good day. They keep the quarterback, they keep their running back, and the rumors around the league of places Saquon Barkley could go can finally stop, and we can have new rumors to talk about. So there is much more to discuss, but I promised Rick I wouldn't take our content. And in the event that tomorrow and Friday nothing happens, we will literally not have much to talk about on our Monday's episode. But thank you guys for tuning in. Steve was in here. We also had Bill in here. Unseen Pets was in here. Bill's daughter is celebrating her 18th birthday. So, once again, Bill, if you're watching this later, I hope you guys have a great time. Happy birthday from Star Six Media family. And tune in tomorrow because tomorrow we are going to be playing NFL trivia, and it's going to be about, I think it's quarterback trivia. And no, combine trivia. Combine trivia. So definitely tune in to that. And I hope to see you guys all there. I hope you guys have a great night. You're enjoying hump day. Crack a beer for me. And until next time, we'll see you.